If the United States and Russia agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine, Europe could deploy some 30,000 troops there. They would act as a deterrent against the threat of a new Russian invasion, the Washington Post reported on Monday, citing sources in Brussels. French media also quoted the country's head of diplomacy as saying that preliminary decisions had already been taken and that Polish troops would go to Ukraine, in addition to French and British soldiers. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk denies this. But opposition politicians warn that this is not the first time the Civic Platform leader has told Polish voters the opposite of what he has agreed with European leaders. Up to 30,000 European troops could soon be sent to Ukraine. These are the unofficial results of the Paris summit obtained by Washington Post journalists. The prospect of a military presence in Ukraine has gained traction as Europeans seek to play a role in talks between Trump's team and Moscow. Even before the meeting between representatives of France, Britain, Germany, Poland, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and Denmark, representing the Baltic and Scandinavian states, began, the French head of diplomacy argued that Europe must be prepared to make tough decisions on Ukraine. If we do not want the front line to move closer to us in the coming years, we will have to be prepared. We will have to make a much greater effort than we have done so far. And we will have to be prepared because there will be difficult days and difficult decisions ahead. We may even have to incur costs that we did not anticipate if this security is to be guaranteed. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who attended the meeting, said he has ruled out the possibility of sending Polish troops for the time being. I do not foresee sending Polish troops to Ukraine, but, according to French media, Polish soldiers will indeed be sent. Jean-Noël Barrot reported that discussions are underway on the deployment of troops, notably French, British, and Polish, the three largest European armies, to guarantee a future ceasefire and lasting peace in Ukraine. The Polish people were, presumably, only supposed to find out after the presidential elections in May. It is not normal that the Polish Prime Minister says one thing here in Poland, and then it turns out that over in Europe, when he goes to Paris or Brussels, he makes completely different arrangements behind the backs of the Polish people. This shows that everything he says is a strategy calculated solely for the presidential campaign, and it is very dangerous. Donald Tusk made a rather enigmatic post on social media. Neither polls nor suggestions from heated commentators will influence my decisions on Ukraine. Poland's security is the only thing that will guide me. This is what the actions of the government and the efforts of our diplomacy serve, in coordination with our allies and Ukraine. Jarosław Kaczyński, president of the Law and Justice Party, says Polish soldiers should, first and foremost, protect Polish territory. We need this army to defend ourselves in the hybrid war on the border with Belarus and to deal with the threat from Kaliningrad. That's why we can't even send small formations, let alone large ones. Officially, France, Germany, Denmark, and Spain say it is too early to discuss sending troops. However, the politicians add that sending troops can be discussed after a peace agreement is reached in Ukraine. At the moment, it is too early to talk about sending troops to Ukraine. There is a war going on there, and everything must be done to stop it as soon as possible. It is important to remember that Europe has always wanted peace. If it had been up to the Europeans and the Ukrainians, this war would have never started. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, however, does not rule out a scenario in which European soldiers would act as a deterrent against Russia's threat to restart the war. We are discussing many possible options. Sending an international peacekeeping force to Ukraine is one of them. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, meanwhile, said he was prepared to send troops. Europe must play its part, and I am prepared to consider the use of British forces on the ground, alongside other countries, if a lasting peace agreement is reached. The problem is that European soldiers in Ukraine would not be covered by NATO security guarantees, and it is Poland, because of its geographical location, that is most vulnerable to possible retaliation from Russia. Russia considers any military force in Ukraine, no matter what flag it will fly, be it the flag of the EU, NATO, or nation states. Unacceptable, which means that sending a peacekeeping mission at a time when one of the parties considers the presence of such units to be hostile is a big risk. Today, we learn from the French foreign minister that the Polish military will participate. We learn from the German chancellor that Tusk will implement the migration pact, despite what he says in Poland. It is clear that Donald Tusk is deceiving us on security issues. No representative of Ukraine was invited to the meeting of anti-Trump European leaders in Paris. Representatives from the Baltic states, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, and other countries in the region were also absent.